news leader, WPTV, West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Pierce. This is News Channel 5 at 6.
Fire and shot through each side of the car, shot out both windows, and the man that was killed, the driver of the vehicle, was shot in the neck.
Now, this is the car that was riddled with bullets when two sleeping tourists at a rest stop near Tallahassee were attacked. One was killed. Good evening, everybody. I'm Laurel Sauer.
And I'm Jim Sack, and thank you for joining us. Our top story at 6, the murder of another tourist, the second slaying of a visitor in this state in less than a week. The violent crime wave is threatening Florida's vibrant tourism industry, frightening those who come here to spend money while they're here. The latest victim is a British man who had stopped to take a nap in his car in a well-lit rest area outside of Tallahassee. He was killed, his female companion shot. We have complete news team coverage for you tonight, including a live report from Jefferson County on the circumstances, how tourists visiting South Florida are coping with the violence, if they'll come back, find out what's being done to protect rental car customers from harm, and we'll have another live report on how the Florida murders are being portrayed around the country. But we begin with Mark Strassman.
Florida is grappling with an unsolved murder and an unsolved problem, the killing of its tourists. Once again, the Florida vacation spot people will remember is a homicide scene. At this rural rest stop, a bundled robbery attempt startled two British tourists, killing one, wounding the other.
They began banging on the windows, demanding money. The male driver woke up and attempted to back out of the rest area to leave the area, at which time both suspects opened fire on the victims.
Behind the wheel, British tourist Gary Colley died from a bullet wound to the neck right over there. His friend Margaret Jagger, bleeding from wounds to her chest and her arm, walked over to this phone to call 911.
I've been shot. Okay, we got him en route. His blood all coming out of his mouth, and I think he was dying.
Another tragic, senseless, and cold-blooded act of violence has been committed on our streets.
Investigators sought clues in these two cars, the shot-out rental of the victims, the suspected getaway car of their attackers.
This is News at 4.
No getting away from Florida's public relations nightmare.
A British tourist has been shot dead in Florida and his female companion injured.
Florida's watched in shock as 9 tourists were murdered in the last year. Today, the state pulled all its tourism advertising.
It's serious, and it's going to take a constant, aggressive effort to limit the damage. I'm even concerned about the domestic market now. So I think
a Florida rest stop's become an unsettling symbol of a scourge that threatens to repel the very people the state tries so hard to attract. State officials are clearly angry, frustrated, and worried. This series of attacks, this series of murders, 9 in the last year, now threatens the well-being of the state's #1 moneymaker, its tourism business. That's the latest in North Florida. I'm Mark Strassman reporting live.
Thank you, Mark. Reporting live tonight for News Channel 5. Laurel?
Millions of tourists travel to Florida each and every year, generating $31 billion for our economy. Now the state must find a way to calm their fears and keep them coming. Our News Channel 5 team coverage continues with Andrea Richards, who shows us what visitors think about the dangers of returning to the Sunshine State.
In England, the murder of a British tourist was the lead story on the evening news.
Good evening.
To Jody Tracy, South Florida is home, but to her relatives in Alabama, it's a danger zone.
They said that they were going to the Keys, but they'd have to go to Miami and get a rental car. And last week after the shooting, they canceled.
This was last week's shooting. A German tourist killed minutes after he and his wife left Miami International Airport in a rental car. It brought a national talk show to Miami,
where a string of tourist killings has cast a shadow of shame and anguish and outrage.
Now that shadow of shame is cast statewide with another tourist killing this morning near Tallahassee. It's the 9th foreign tourist death this year, and it's a public relations nightmare.
People will be afraid to come here.
Even tourism officials here in Palm Beach County are afraid Florida's largest industry could take a major hit. So they're scrambling to come up with creative ways to keep everyone who travels into South Florida safe.
And we're having signs develop, international signage with figures denoting, or a wave denoting this is the direction of the beach or whatever.
Similar signs went up in Miami this spring, but they didn't prevent attacks on tourists.
Part of the livelihood of Florida is tourism, so, you know, it's a good shot that you know, they're going to be the ones hit.
Tonight, the question is, when will this deadly trend end? Florida's economy needs it to. In West Palm Beach, Andrea Richards, News Channel 5.
Now more than 3 million visitors spend time in Palm Beach County each and every year, and officials are hoping for a profitable season despite the latest attacks. Well, it's not just the potential visitors across the ocean who are hearing about this crime wave. Other prospective tourists call America home, and they are also hearing that Florida is not always a safe place to visit. Our team coverage continues now with Matt Cesney, who joins us live now from the satellite desk, where he's been monitoring Florida's portrayal from coast to coast. Matt, what have you found?
Well, Laurel, no doubt that this tragic killing is putting Florida into a dark cloud this evening. We've been watching on the satellite newscasts from all over the world all day, telling their viewers about the senseless violence here at home. In England, the murder of a British tourist was the lead story on the evening news.
Good evening. Another British tourist has been murdered while on holiday in Florida.
Another week and another batch of stories about foreign tourists in danger in the Florida sun.
Well, there are a number of things you can do. The first is actually not to look like a tourist.
And Europe is not alone. Here in the States, cities that traditionally Florida relies on for visitors were also hearing the violent details of yet another killing. Here's how it looked in Providence.
A botched robbery and another foreign tourist in Florida loses his life.
In St. Louis.
Florida's governor is outraged this afternoon, and police are on alert after yet another tourist was gunned down on a Florida highway.
It happened at a rest stop very early this morning.
And in Boston.
Well, it's happened again in Florida, another attack on a foreign tourist. A British man was shot to death, and a woman friend of his was grazed in the chest by a bullet.
So what does all this negative publicity about Florida around the country mean? Specifically, what does it mean to the state's booming tourist industry? Well, travel experts agree that it's bound to scare some people away.
I think when people are planning trips, it makes a very big impression on them, and it makes them think.
And the latest example of what bad publicity can do to a tourist industry is the negative impact the LA riots had on that city's number of visitors. Now, travel agents tell us it took about a year for the reputation that LA had to finally die down and for tourists to start returning to that city in large numbers again. As we've seen on the satellite here all day today, the news about Florida around the world is not good, and people elsewhere most likely are starting to have second thoughts about coming here this season. Laurel?
All right, Matt, thanks. Matt Cesney reporting live tonight from the satellite news desk. Jim?
As word of the recent killings spreads, many tourists are looking for ways to protect themselves while still enjoying a vacation in the Sunshine State. A company based in Palm Beach County says it has a new product that can provide a link to safety for visitors. News Channel 5's Tina Conti joins us live from Boca Raton with the latest on that. Tina?
Well, Jim, as many of us know, you can't always bring all the modern conveniences of home when you go on a trip, and that includes your cellular telephone. But now people staying at this hotel and a lot of other places in South Florida have a new way to get their hands on a portable phone, whether it be for business or even for emergencies. We all use snack machines and soda machines, but how about portable phone machines? With this new vending device, you can use your credit card to rent a cellular phone.
Insert his credit card.
President of Instaphone, Don Buzelli, says the phones can make trips easier for business people and also for tourists, especially in the wake of recent attacks on the roadways.
That they only have to hit 3 digits to be able to pull up that, and then they actually are communicating with somebody.
The idea of renting a phone for the road appeals to tourist Chris Murphy and her friends.
I'd feel a lot safer than not having it, especially with 911 now.
I think with things that are happening to tourists down here, it's all taking place in the cars and that type of thing, so I think it'd be a very good idea.
When these people are being attacked, they're being attacked at that moment. Pushing a button on a phone is not going to help that situation at all.
But rental car manager Ed Korn does think renting out phones to tourists is a good idea for less critical situations, such as when a car breaks down. Starting this week, the company is delivering about 50 of its new cellular phone machines to hotels and rental car agencies throughout the Southeast. And Buzelli says no matter what they use it for, he's hoping lots of customers come calling on his machines. And for those of you who may be wondering, it costs $4.95 to rent the phone for a day and anywhere from $1.60 to $2.05 per minute to make a call. And if for some reason you don't get the phone back to the machine, you'll find a $650 charge on your credit card. Jim?
In Boca Raton tonight, Tina Conti.
Is on every